Hi guys, and welcome back after over a month to the Trope Show, the show for talking about tropes. And to kick off the new year, let's talk about sequels. By definition, I'm sure we all know what a sequel is. It's a work of fiction that takes place after the original. And I'm going to give some examples of some sequels here tonight. So, let's start by talking about just sequels in general. And, well, let's start by talking about animated sequels. If there's one series of animated children's films that's had enough sequels to last you a lifetime, that would be the Land Before Time series. With the original film by Don Bluth having had 13 sequels. Yes, that's right, 13 sequels. And, well, let's just move on now, shall we? I thought I would just point that out as an example of animated sequels, but there are other examples. Such as what we're going to talk about now. We might as well stay with animation. And let's talk about well, actually, let's not talk about no. Let's talk about The Simpsons next. James, The Simpsons has never had any sequels. What are you talking about? They've had sequel episodes. Okay. And they've done two of these that I can think of that are outside of the Treehouse of Horror realm. Okay. And those would be Tis the 15th season, the Christmas special from season 15, and 15 years later, they did Tis the 30th season. So, there you go. Now, let's talk about some sequels in literature next, shall we? Well, okay. The likes of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets through Deathly Hallows are this to the Philosopher's Stone. And then, oh boy, then, as a stage play, they did Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is more of a time travel story than it is a Harry Potter one. Okay. And other sequels in literature, we have Prince Caspian, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, The Silver Chair, and The Last Battle being this to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I can't count The Magician's Nephew because that's a prequel, and we're talking about sequels. And The Horse and His Boy is a midquel. set during the events directly following the coronation of the Pevensies in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So we can't count that one either. For Forrest Gump, there was Gump and Co. But now, we're going to talk about the sequel series trope. Now, this would imply that there was an original TV series and it was followed up by sequels. So, examples of this, and believe me, there's quite a few. Examples of this include the Star Trek franchise, especially with the likes of The Next Generation, which is a fan favourite, of course, Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and Star Trek Discovery. Again, I can't count Enterprise because that's a prequel series. And we're talking about sequels. Okay. And then we have All Grown Up, which is a sequel series to Rugrats, which follows the adventures of the Rugrats gang 10 years later, or 9 years, by the fact that Tommy and his friends are aged between 10 and 11 years old. So, and yeah, they're all middle schoolers, so go figure. Pardon me. No, in anime and manga, the sequel series, or quite a few of these that have been very heavily franchised over the years. But the king of my examples would be Dragon Ball, which followed up its original series with Dragon Ball Z. Then the B Team sequel, Dragon Ball GT, which, okay, but that's the only example of a B Team sequel I know, so go figure. And then back to the normal sequel, we have Dragon Ball Super, and the upcoming Dragon Ball Daima. Which is being brought out this year to celebrate the franchise's 40th anniversary. Okay, so let's talk about sequel episodes now. Now, I've already mentioned two of these. Those were the Simpsons episodes, if you remember. The Christmas episodes of The Simpsons. Or, I guess, 'tis the 30th season being a sequel to 'tis the 15th season. But I actually did miss another one out. There was also Holidays of Future Future, which was a sequel to season 23's Holidays of Future Past. Okay. And every Treehouse of Horror from 2 right up to the most recent one, 34, is a sequel to Treehouse of Horror. You might think I'm cheating when I mention that. But do I care? No, I don't. It's my show. I'll do what I want. And here you go. Okay. So, moving on then to okay, let's talk about movie sequels now. Okay, so where do we begin with these? Let's talk about the Rocky films first. Now, obviously, we also have a sequel franchise to count here, the Creed films. Now, in the original Rocky series, there are 6 films. The original, and that was followed by 5 sequels. Those would be, Rocky 2, 3, 4, 5, and Balboa. And then for the Creed films, there's only 3 of those. So the sequels to Creed are Creed 2 and 3, obviously. For the Rambo series, another Sylvester Stallone series here, well, the original film in that series was First Blood. The sequels are Rambo, First Blood Part 2, Rambo 3, John Rambo, or just Rambo, and the final film, Rambo Last Blood. And this isn't a show for opinions, which is why I'm not reviewing the films here. Indiana Jones. That's now a series of 5 films that have been released over the past 42 years. The original film in the series, as we know, was Raiders of the Lost Ark. That means it's, well, the first sequel is actually a prequel, so we can't mention it here. So the sequels actually are just The Last Crusade, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and the most recent film, The Dial of Destiny. So yeah, we're talking about sequels here, not prequels. Okay. I mentioned Harry Potter in literature. The films are just adaptations of the books. So we don't need to go into that again. Fantastic Beasts, however, the spin-off trilogy. The original film there is obviously Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and its sequels are The Crimes of Grindelwald and The Secrets of Dumbledore. And okay, guys. Next up, and the last thing I'm going to mention in by way of sequels are going to be Back to the Future, Part 2 and 3. So, now, because the last thing I want to talk about before ending the episode is actually something that could be a trope unto itself and have an episode to itself. The trope of ridiculous future sequelization. Now, this would be the act in fiction of taking a franchise and keep adding sequels to it. So, some examples of this that happen in fiction. There's the Red Dwarf example of Friday the 13th, part 1649. And then, if I'm not mistaken, there's also an example of this from a commercial, a PlayStation commercial of all things, that states the PS10 will be out by 2078. And from Doctor Who, we have the 11th Doctor popping back from the show's centenary. Yes, the 100th anniversary of the show in 2063, which is a reunion with all 57 Doctors. Now, that sequelization might not be so ridiculous after all. That might end up happening in real life. So, as might the PS10, but maybe not in 2078 or 2079 or whatever year. So, there are plenty of other examples of that out there. Look at it for yourself on the TV Tropes website. So now, guys, that's the end of the episode. Before it gets too out of hand and the show ends up running until 2054 with a total of 6,767 episodes. So yeah, that is it on the sequels tropes. Join me next time for another trope discussion. Until then, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have us a magical time.